Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. It is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. This morning, more pressure on the White House and President Joe Biden as a damning new poll shows an alarming 64%. You heard that right. 64% of Democratic voters say they would prefer someone other than the incumbent to run for president in 2024. How's the White House responding to Biden's low approval ratings, and will a challenge in the primary be more detrimental to the party? Also, a judge in Atlanta is still refusing to allow bail for hip hop superstar Gunna, whose racketeering charge has been widely questioned by many inside and outside the industry. And a DC organization have put together a conglomerate that regularly watches court cases to make sure that judges and prosecutors are carrying out their duties fairly and responsibly, particularly in cases where the defendant is Black or brown. We discussed all of that this morning with Itoro, the managing editor of the Atlanta Voice. Good morning, Itoro.
Good morning, Stacy. How are you?
I am doing well. It's good to have you. Your first time on the program. Hopefully, it's the first of many more to come. And I guess you say if you get my last name right, maybe I'll come back. Tell the folks your name, Itoro.
So, my name is Itoro Umontwin, and I serve as the managing editor with the Atlanta Voice.
Awesome. The awesome paper down, of course, in Atlanta, Georgia. Itoro, we began. President Biden is facing an alarming level of doubt from inside his own party, with 64% of Democratic voters saying they would prefer a new standard bearer in the 2024 presidential campaign. According to a New York Times Siena College poll, voters nationwide have soured on Biden's leadership, giving him a meager 33% job approval rating. And here's really, Itoro, I think is really problematic. According to former Congresswoman Nina Turner, a poll released Monday showed that 94% of Democrats under the age of 30 prefer a candidate other than Biden in 2024. Itoro, 94% of Democrats under the age of 30. Is that a problem for the president?
I think age is always there's always that the long-term debate between, are you too old to run for president? Are you too old? Are you too slow? Or whatever we say, right? So I think the thing with Biden, and I think Donald Trump did this effectively, where he branded President Biden as Sleepy Joe.
Yep.
And you see all these different clips on social media where Biden is forgetful, he's slow to speak or whatever. And that sticks into the minds of young people a lot, because we're often told you got to be sharp, you got to be on your feet, you got to think fast, you got to think on your feet. So seeing President Biden up there do these kinds of things, although benign and, no one really thinks that it's a big deal, people see it and say, oh, he's not sharp because he just takes him too long to speak. It takes him too long to talk or whatever. So young people do see that. They also have reacted to Gavin Newsom in California taking the stances that he has taken with abortion, with
going after DeSantis,
universal basic income in a way or in a hope to fight inflation. People see that. People see the stances he's taken. People see his approaches, and they're like, this guy got it going on. How come Biden can't do what he's doing? So,
and how detrimental would it be, if at all, in your view, and in young folks' view, if they ran someone against Biden in the primary?
I think at this moment in time, it would definitely be damaging. But at the same time, we must make it clear. Clinton, Reagan, and even Obama also struggled with low approval ratings and heading into the midterms of their first terms. Reagan was, I believe, around 36%. Clinton was around 36%. Obama was hovering around the 35 to 40 percentile. So whatever isn't done on their agenda heading into the midterms, it's always going to be a referendum. And I think this is where President Biden has to take the time and level with the people. It also means that the progressives, the activists, they also must continue to keep pushing. Because one thing Obama was known for, he would always tell people, make me do it. When they were fighting for um, gay rights and gay marriage, 12, 13, 14 years ago, make me do it. Give me a reason to tell me to go and fight for you on the national stage. So I think this is where everybody around President Biden who wants him to kind of do more and to make him do more and to make him act with more urgency. This is now the time to say, okay, Mr. President, we have to lean in on this issue.
Yeah, and let me ask you this too before we move on. Um, in 4 years of Trump, the country was split. It was divided as never before. We saw the rise of all these white supremacist groups, and pretty much the policies of the former administration was destroying lives. When you read and hear the commentary on his 4 years, is it that uh, are we expecting too much from President Biden having to clean up that mess?
I think when you look at history, we saw Obama try to clean up the recession and the downturn in 2008. And that dominated the first 2 years of his presidency to the point where the Democrats got absolutely destroyed in 2010. The same road Biden could be and is likely heading down the same road. And I think and I'll use this as an example. When the Supreme Court overturned Roe, what it basically, on the federal level, it basically signaled we're returning this power to the states. And the Black community and Democrats as a whole have always found it problematic to get people to turn out for the midterm elections. I'm in Georgia, and I think there's a major there's a major election that's going to take place on November 8th. Every statewide office is up for grabs, including governor, every single state rep seat, every single state senate seat, every single state commissioner seat. Signaling that Roe is going back to the states is going to give people an opportunity to say, you know what?
Well, you say that, and I hear you, but you think about all of the gerrymandering, the voter suppression laws, including in Georgia, right? Republicans have really set themselves up. We were talking about this recently. Our producer Greer and I, she's very astute on these things. They they've set it up where it's so many more Democratic voters than there are Republican voters, right? So if you just went by the popular vote, certainly Democrats would win. But they've gerrymandered and passed all these laws that effectively prevent certain people, certainly people of color, from voting.
Mhm.
So what chances? It's going to be hard to overcome these obstacles that, because of the Supreme Court's makeup, and because of the federal court's makeup. Because remember, Donald Trump stacked that federal
Exactly.
court, as well as the Supreme Court. What are the chances that Democrats can overcome that? It's not a matter of getting enough votes; it's a matter of getting the right votes, right?
Absolutely. And this is the first time in Georgia the draconian law, Senate Bill 202, which limited drop boxes, also, told people you can't pass out chips and water and all these different
It's
things.
horrible. Sorry, but imagine you're standing out there. It's 100 degrees in Georgia. You know, you guys high humidity, whatever, and you can't have a drink of water standing on line.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But one of the things that the New Georgia Project, shout out to my friend Insei Ufat and others, have done, they said, okay, we're going to have to promote early voting. And early voting in Georgia means if you're resident in Bankhead, you can go vote in Buckhead, you can vote downtown, you can vote anywhere within the county of residence. And it's a 3 week early voting period in Georgia. So in the last, I would say in 2021, where Atlanta elected Mayor Andre Dickens, the early vote was so dominant that on election day the polling places were slow. People were like, we don't really have anybody because people voted early.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways to get around the draconian rules on election days to say, hey, you still have souls at the polls in Georgia. You still have this 3 week early voting period. You still can vote on the weekend, at least maybe not all weekend, but maybe one day out of the weekend or 2 days out of the weekend. And you say, hey, the early vote is still important because on
Mhm.
election day, you're going to get all of the BS that, hey, Morehouse only has 2 voting booths and this Buckhead library has got 10.
Mhm. Well, Rodney Anderson writes in, and Rodney, we talked about this a little earlier. If you just joined us, he says 94% of those under 30 want Biden gone. And we know that the young folks, President Obama, his first term especially, was galvanized by the young voters. They were the ones who really, just as much as we credit Black women, rightfully so, in the 2020 election, it was the young ones who really pushed Obama over the top in 2008. So it bears to be watching what happens. And finally, in Georgia, I have to ask you real quick before we move on. Um, Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, it's like on the surface, it's like Muhammad Ali at the height of his game versus a welterweight, going on the downside. But having said that, these politics, this is why I only cover it. I stay out of it. They tricky. Does he have a shot at all from what you're hearing down in Georgia of defeating Raphael Warnock?
There was a Quinnipiac poll um, about 2 weeks ago, or 10 days ago, rather, that had Reverend Warnock with a 10-point lead over Herschel Walker. One of the things I tell people all of the time is that polls drastically underrepresented, Black people are drastically underrepresented in the polling data. So you got to go by the word on the street. You got to go by the tenor and what people are saying and how they feel on the streets. Metro Atlanta, nobody's rocking with Herschel. They think he's a Donald Trump puppet. They think he speaks
Well,
in big.
he is a puppet. I shouldn't say that. I mean, the things that this guy comes up with, it's amazing that he has handlers that would let him say it.
I attended the irony of it is on Juneteenth or June 20th, Herschel Walker hosted a campaign rally at the GOP's, the RNC's recruitment offices in College Park. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But he was there and he talked about everything from you don't see black people, you don't see black people stand up and protest abortion. You don't see black people doing all this stuff. And what about the Democrats? The Democrats, they just as complicit as black people are. And we just handing them our vote is indiscriminately. But does he have any platforms of his own? No, outside of banning abortion in all forms and all circumstances and parroting whatever the MAGA movement is saying. So, but Herschel is very popular in this state. And as we know, there's Georgia, Atlanta is not strong enough, it's not powerful enough to come out here and just win elections by you cannot win Georgia by just carrying Atlanta by itself.
Yeah.
It's
Well.
not at this point, we're not in that Atlanta is not that powerful yet, like in New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco.
Mhm.
So ultimately, like Reverend Warnock has been doing, he's been speaking to the farmers. He's been going to the small towns and to the byways and the churches and these small businesses and along the Black Belt, along Highway 80, going down to Savannah, going down to Macon and Warcross and speaking to the farmers and these small business people in rural Georgia because Atlanta is always going to be there.
Yeah.
You can count
Yeah.
on Atlanta. You can count on Atlanta. But the battlegrounds are going to be the suburbs and these small towns here in Georgia.
Well, you know what? It'll be interesting to see it unfold. We're gonna stay in Atlanta right now. A judge in Atlanta on last Thursday denied bond for rapper Gunna, who's charged with racketeering along with fellow hip hop star Young Thug and more than 24 other people. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Uriel Glanville had previously denied bond for Gunna, whose given name is Sergio Kitchens, and on Thursday held a hearing on the rapper's request to reconsider that decision. Glanville said he worried that Kitchens might threaten or intimidate witnesses if he were released ahead of trial. Um, that last statement by the judge is a little bit troublesome in the sense that has there been any previous evidence of Gunna threatening any witnesses? There's never been, at least publicly published, thoughts of him threatening anyone. Where does this come from, Otero?
Part of it comes from when you go back to the 88-page indictment, and 88 pages, I haven't seen an indictment that long since
Uh, Al
Watergate,
Capone.
Al Capone.
Goodness.
But if you kind of look back at the indictment, they say that they promoted murder, carjacking, and other criminal activities in their music and on social media
Through their lyrics, right?
through their lyrics. Right.
And so let's stop there for a moment. How problematic is that when you have an industry, a music industry that essentially pushes these guys to create such lyrics?
It is problematic when you've got artists who have, most of them, not all of them, have had lived experiences of gang life, gang activities, selling drugs, hustling, robbing, killing, stealing, just to make sure that, they get themselves out of situation. This is how Pierre Thomas, the CEO of Quality Control Records, who are responsible for acts like Migos and City Girls, he was a known thief in Atlanta before before he washed his money and became a CEO of one of the biggest rap labels out right now. So
Mm-hmm.
you have the combination of lived experience plus, is there an agenda working on the government level of some sort to say, hey, we need to get gangs and these criminal enterprises off the streets? Maybe, but it's always been a sliding scale and sliding slope.
Mm-hmm.
So people, when they read the indictment, they saw that around the country anyway, saw that Fonnie Willis, the Fulton County DA, is, you know, fairly young black lady who knows what's going on. Everybody's eyebrows furled up and said, that's not right. This doesn't sound right. But then the whole DA's office in Fulton County is ran by black people. So,
Yeah,
so
there's that famous photo too of so a couple of years back with all of these black female judges and prosecutors as well. And I think it was Atlanta and in Houston for that matter.
that's right. So you look at it, and on its surface, you say, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you go after your own? I get it. But then what ended up happening was a rival rapper, YFN Lucci, who is currently being held in Fulton County jail right now. There are reports and rumors. I don't start rumors, I just report on them when they're out. There are rumors that suggest that he and his whole in his clique has started snitching on Thug and Gunna while they were facing their own charges and their own legal jeopardy. And
Mm.
that's what compelled the Fulton County DA to take a little bit a magnifying glass to the whole situation.
So are you implying that another what's this guy Daniels his real name in New York? You know who I'm talking about, the rapper that they said snitched to get out of prison. Oh God, why can't I think of his name? What is that guy's name? Somebody in the audience knows his name. His real
Hmm.
name is Dan. I don't know why I know his real name. I can't think of his rap name, which is very popular. Um, but he's hated in hip hop right now. 6ix9ine. There you go. Thanks,
That's
David
it. Yes.
Youngblood.
Hmm. So
um,
so I don't know if this is I don't know how big of a thing this is in this case, but it is indeed real, and this is something that has definitely compelled the Fulton County DA to go and act and really investigate this a little bit further.
well, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, these racketeering charges are that's you know, in some cases, I've heard folks say I'd rather be hit with murder charges than racketeering charges because racketeering can put you away for life,
Right.
and so these things are really it bears watching because again, you know, the hip hop of today is totally different than the hip hop of 30, 40 years ago. I mean, look at the names Gunna, Young Thug, Lil this, Lil that. When back in the day it was Run DMC, Eric B, you know, Chuck D, you know, so
Hmm.
it's all changed. Let's move on. We'll continue to monitor that situation. We're so glad to have the award-winning Atlanta Voice managing editor with us. That paper is outstanding down in coverage of everything Atlanta, everything Georgia, and even some national topics as well. But Court Watch DC, a young lady named Kiana Johnson stood at a microphone at the Eaton House, a progressive co-working space in downtown Washington, and described what she saw as the main facet of a courtroom, its emptiness. In Johnson's telling, a court is a place where powerful actors, the judge, the prosecutors, have wide latitude to do what they want and little threat of accountability. So she began, a former uh, inmate herself, her and another former inmate began this Court Watch, PG County Court Watch DC, in which they have a crew of people to watch court proceedings, particularly proceedings that where a black or brown person is the defendant. They want to make sure that these judges and prosecutors are acting fairly. They're being held accountable. This is pretty interesting to me when I saw this, Etoro. Uh, to have citizens get involved in this way, particularly someone like these two young ladies who started this, because they have been down this road before, and we keep hearing about, and we know it's true about this injustice, criminal injustice system that we have in America.
I agree. Totally, totally agree. When I first read this, my first thought was, this is so expletive incredible. This is incredible because for far too long, we have wanted, begged, got on our knees, and asked the good Lord above for accountability in the American justice system, right? And the fact that Kiana Johnson, Carmen Johnson, the legendary singer Fiona Apple, and others basically are writing report cards for judges, monitoring prosecutors, and building a database on bond hearings. This is this is incredible, Stacy.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It is. I agree with you 100%, and it is. It is my belief that they should be getting a whole lot more attention. This, as you stated, a report card on prosecutors, a report card on judges. It's to let them know finally, at least in the Washington D.C. area and its surrounding communities, they're going to be held accountable.
Absolutely. This is a tool that, and everyone has one of these in their hands. You say, hey, come over here. You have a judge, whoever, prosecutor, whomever, do a quick search, boom. You know who you're dealing with, the kind of person you're dealing with. And that also, even as you may be appointed a public defender, you may have your own attorney, you turn around and say, okay, you know what? This is how I can chart my strategy to better advocate for myself and my family in this situation. This
Yeah.
is this is this is this is somebody's answered prayer, Stacy. I
Yeah.
firmly believe it.
Well, many said that they hope that Court Watch can shine a light and show people how much latitude a prosecutor has. And volunteers, they now have about 100 volunteers per month. They're watching these hearings either inside the courtroom live or remotely, because many of the court proceedings now are still, especially in the DC area, are still on Zoom. And
That's
so it's they're asking their volunteers to sit there for a few minutes at least, and really monitor this. They want to know about, as they put it, careless judges, overzealous prosecutors, and other forms of mistreatments that go on in courtrooms. You have to be in a court. I've sat in many a trials, covering many a trials, and saw things that. And they go unreported a lot of times, especially when it pertains to certain individuals. They go unreported, and you wonder if the spotlight was on, if the cameras were on in the courtroom, would this actually happen? And now you have these volunteers who are watching and they are taking note.
I totally agree. The accountability, and I keep going back to it. The accountability is the thing for me. I think for far too long, like you say, you have just do whatever they want to do within the bounds of the law because the laws give them the widest amount of latitude possible. So the absolute great thing about what Carmen and Kiana are doing, it provides this, it tears down these walls and gives people the opportunity to be transparent or to witness this process in a transparent manner. I think this is a model that can easily be replicated around the country. I
Yep.
know in Atlanta, most of these court hearings, more often than not, are still being held on Zoom.
Yep.
So, you know, this is I'm trying not to do the praise dance in here, but I'm going to tell you,
Hold off on that, okay? That is hilarious. Itoro, so before we close, a note from our producer. She says there's a new law in Arizona that criminalizes people who record officers within 8 feet of an incident. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So you see again where they are really trying to no transparency. They want to take away any semblance of transparency. And again, a Republican-led state again. I don't, we see what's going on. I'll leave it at that.
I'll
Go ahead,
say this.
Etoro. I'll let you close, Etoro.
I'll say this. My friend Insei, who thought of the New Georgia Project, she has this saying that what we're seeing um, is the protection of the pale, stale, white male leadership structure in America. In Georgia, the state is populated by 51% white people. That means the other 49 are not white people. And we're seeing in this moment in time in these legislatures, Georgia, Arizona, Texas, and others, they are codifying these laws to make sure that when we, as they say, we are no longer the majority, our agendas are being protected. We have the court system in our favor. We've got the laws in our favor. Even if you say Democrats are going to take over state houses, governor's mansions, then guess what? We've got the court system to back us up, which is why in this moment in time, yes, elections do matter. Yes,
Well,
votes do matter. But also, beyond those slogans, the strategy of making sure that you've got your lawyers and your attorneys and your constitutional attorneys ready to fight for you and on your behalf. This is not a checkers game. This is a chess game. And you're dealing with a party, a Republican Party, that has made this 40-year bet to make sure that their rights, be it abortion, the freedom to pray, which that's another topic for another day, because when Muhammad decides to pray toward Mecca, then we're going to have a problem on our hands. But
well, I think you nailed it though. 51%, 49% others, right? Who's the others? Chuck D said it years and years ago. My man Chuck said it's the fear of a black planet. But also, the whole world, the beast, take it home scripturally, is lying in the power of the wicked one. There's no question about it. Thank you so much, Etoro, the managing editor of the Atlanta Voice. We were in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, and they just, Dennis Ware, the publisher, just kept coming on the stage, accepting award after award. And Janice is a great sight to see, but I got tired of seeing Janice come up there. I wanted one of those awards. But anyway, thanks so much for joining. Let it be known. Thank you, Etoro. Hope to see you again. Everybody stay safe and stay well, and we'll see you tomorrow.